Welcome in, Who Dat Nation, Who Dat to you. Happy New Year. Hope you are having a fantastic one. It is January 2nd. It is a new year, and even though it's a new year, we still got to finish out this 2023 season where your New Orleans Saints, whether you like it or not, are technically still in playoff contention. And beyond that, it's Falcons Hate Week. So we will, of course, be talking about, it's just always Falcons, absolutely always, but we will also talk about things happening this past week. We don't have an injury report. Won't have that officially until tomorrow. We do know that Kendre Miller was trending in the wrong direction when it came to last Friday's practice. Hopefully that has improved. And the expectation was that you won't see Lattimore or Thomas during the season. If they were to return, be probably during the playoffs. But there's always a chance here this week. We'll have to wait and see how tomorrow's set looks. Now, to remind everybody, look, because the playoffs are still alive and we have to concentrate on Falcons Hate Week, we will not be doing the draft content until the season is officially over for New Orleans. Now, I did think that would be this week, to be honest with you, but it's not this week. So just an FYI, if you're coming here to ask about, Penix, if you're coming here to ask about Jaden Daniels, etc., we're not going to dive too deep into that. Doesn't mean that conversations can't be had, and I would love to see a list of who all y'all want to ask and talk about in our Discord so that we can kind of go over those things and kind of prep for them. And I would like to do some film studies, if y'all remember, with college stuff, because I can't put any of the All-22. I do manage to get my hands on. We'll have to do it with broadcast view, which is not great, but we can put together some scouting reports and talk about what that might look like. But all that is in the future. Who dat to those who were here early on. Good to see you, Solar Flares. Josh Chantel. Good to see you, Joseph Feltwell. Abraham. Ato 1220. Negative Fish. Gerald Stevenson. Alro 337. Zavron Randall. Good to see you. TJ, one of our mods. Nathan Garrison. Young Kuvo. James Griffon. Kevin Taylor. Rainey. And 992 and everybody else coming on in. Who dat to you. Welcome in. And we've got the big one. I love this week. This 2 weeks of the year that, and I've said this so many times on the show, if the Saints were to go 2-15, because that's the new thing, you can't go 2-14 anymore. Well, I guess you could go 2-14-1. If the Saints were to go 2-15, I don't want the 2 games them to win against the Atlanta Falcons, right? It's always absolutely want to beat the Atlanta Falcons. So you have an opportunity for that this week. To get there, you need to build off your success from last week. Now, you did have success from last week. It is kind of shocking, but here are a couple things to note. Dennis Allen did say recently that Derek Carr is healthy as he's been all season long. Now, does that necessarily matter? I'll be honest. No, I don't think it does, because I think the problems are what they are, and they're not going to magically change just because Carr is healthy. I do think that a healthy Carr playing how he did against Tampa is exactly what you wanted all season, which is efficient and good, but not great quarterback play. If you get it against the Falcons, fantastic. It's kind of like you, and I remember watching TJ talk about this in the Discord. I mean, going by how a lot of Saints fans predicted, there were pretty high prediction margins, but in terms of like what he's actually doing, Derek Carr's really doing what his career has always been. And I think there were some expectations for him to rise above that. And I do think there's scenarios where he could be better than his history. But if you look, it's actually one of his better seasons statistically. And that just tells you who Derek Carr is. So, none of this is in a defense of Derek Carr. I just think there may be some expectations got placed a little bit high, and then he got put in with a terrible coaching staff because everybody in the chat wants Dennis Allen gone. So even if he does come out and play and he's healthy, as the quote says, I just don't think it's, that important in terms of what that can mean for the future. Now, good news is that Lennon Young avoided a major injury requiring surgery. Still not expecting to see him play this week, but that's a big one, especially with Ryan Ramczyk having the issues that he's had. Alvin Kamara has a sprained ankle and was in rehab, but the severity or the grade of that sprain was not released. Nefi Sewell sadly has an ACL injury and will have surgery. Sucks to see that one in. That's a real tough one. And then finally, if the Saints beat Atlanta and Tampa loses Carolina, the Saints are in. But here's what you need if Tampa wins. You got to beat Atlanta, Green Bay loses to Chicago, and Seattle loses to Arizona if you want to make the wild card. There are your birthing strategies. So a few different things to take away from those different quotes. Again, I think the Derek Carr one's kind of, Dennis Allen clearly went and got his guy, which is fine. I'm glad that Derek Carr's had a couple of games where he was Derek Carr, but yeah, I don't think him being healthy is really that big of a deal. I mean, I'm happy for him. Like, yay, I'm glad you're healthy, my guy. But I don't think it's moving the needle for New Orleans. And we'll see what they do this week. It would be the most New Orleans Saints Dennis Allen thing to manage to pull off a winning record, granted against a very weak schedule and weak division, and miss the playoffs, but we'll just have to wait and see. Now, Alro says somehow we miss on Penix and Daniels. I'll take Neighbors. I'm just going to be honest, Alro. Again, we're not going to get super deep in this. I've said before, I don't think Daniels is on the Saints' radar. Just from a fit perspective, and we'll see where we are. Just real quick, we're going to cover this just for a second. If y'all have never looked at the website Tankathon, that is the easiest way I've found to track draft picks just really quickly. So New Orleans, if the season ended today, would have the 13th pick in the first round and then the 45th pick in the second round. That's obviously Denver's pick. If you've never used that website, I'll go ahead and throw it at you. And you can kind of decide from there. Now, too, I agree that CJ Stroud's done really good as a rookie. I would also add that Bobby Slowick is a far superior coordinator. Not that I'm even trying to defend Derek Carr, just like I can't get past how bad the coaching has been this year. And like all these quotes coming out about, oh, players are healthy and we're trying to make, a push. I'm kind of over it. Like, yes, I will root on this team to beat the Atlanta Falcons. Always. Yes, I'll root on this team if they make it in the playoffs. But it's just the negative that I cannot help but get around, or I struggle to get around, is that no matter what, this is absolutely pushing the Dennis Allen, kick his can down the road. You still have an opportunity. I was talking to one of this, few sources I still have. I only got count on two hands. But talked about there really is the potential for Pete Carmichael to be relieved of his play calling duties no matter what this offseason, regardless of how they end up finishing. So that is a glimmer of hope in my little sphere of dismay. But generally speaking, you're going to have Dennis Allen here no matter what. And I've said this, even if they got blew out these last two games, Dennis Allen was still going to be here, but he's absolutely not going anywhere if they manage to go 9-8, and he's definitely not going anywhere if they go 8-9. So, yeah. Be crazy. Happy New Year, by the way, 9-2. Good to see you. And who's this Peyton Turner fellow you speak of? Speaking of Peyton Turner, he is eligible to return this week. I would be curious to see if that ends up happening, but he is eligible to return. So, yeah, there's that. There's absolutely that. Whether that actually means anything to anybody, I don't know. But Peyton Turner he was practicing last week. If they were going to activate him, it would need to be this week to get him in for this season. The last game he played, you got to go all the way back to week 1 against Tennessee. That's it. I mean, I hate it because, I never really blame, or I don't blame injuries on players because players can't help if they get injured. They just can't. But I hate that that's, been the thing where it's back to back between him and Davenport because FYI, Davenport's season is over. He will not be returning. So he finished the year where he played 3 games, but technically he only played 4 snaps in week 2. So he played essentially 2 games, recorded 2 sacks, 7 tackles, and that's it. And joking aside about how that's a 400% increase in his sack totals, it's like you can see, and the Vikings fans got to see that flash of Marcus Davenport. They got to see it. And then what they saw was him not playing the entire season. And sadly, Peyton Turner is heading on a very similar trajectory. I hope that's not the case, but 5 games rookie year, 8 games the second season, and he had a couple of flashes, but he wasn't healthy. 1, maybe 2 games this year, and unless he just comes out and is stellar and healthy and looks amazing, absolutely no shot he's getting that 5th-year extension, a 5th-year option, and he's probably going to be 4 and out. Probably out in his 4th year or after his 4th year. So that's rough, and that really puts a lot of pressure on Isaiah Foskey to develop and be the guy they want, as well as Carl Granderson to continue to get better. And I love Carl Granderson. I love what he's become as a player. But at the same time, he's not elite. So you wonder, can he be elite next year? He'll be 28 years old. So if he hits his prime at 28, that's completely fine. But, or is he in his prime now? Either way, he's definitely not doing what Trey Henderson is, which Trey Henderson has 17 sacks on the season. The entire Saints defensive line as a unit has 21. So you definitely need improvement. Sorry to get on the tangent there as we start off with some Peyton Turner discussion, but yeah, you brought it up and I went down that road. And that's kind of the theme of tonight's show is to kind of recap a lot of these quotes that we're getting from the coaching staff in the last week and everything. And I don't know, it's like I'm happy for some specific players, but I'm so frustrated with the direction of the franchise. And I'm miffed that it feels like so many at the top who can make these calls don't see or agree. But we'll just have to wait and see. Gerald Stevenson, good to see. Says, Deuce, my issue is this. Even if we do get a good to great coordinator in there, the Saints go 11-6, 12-5. That only prolongs Dennis Allen remaining here. We aren't winning anything with keep on doing what you're doing. That's a legit argument to be had, Gerald. I think that the only rebuttal I can provide, and I'm providing a rebuttal that might as well be devil's advocate. So consider just for a second. Who is realistically available as a head coach or to be a head coach that can take you to the Super Bowl? Now, if you believe that you can throw your hat into the Harbaugh sweepstakes because there's legitimate rumors that he's leaving Michigan, fine. I think that's a fair rebuttal. If y'all want to say, hey, still let's go pick it at front of the Superdome so that they fire Dennis Allen if he manages to go 9-8, just so that you can sign Harbaugh because you believe that he can take you to the Super Bowl, that's cool. That's cool. But I'll be honest, I wouldn't take Bill Belichick, who is probably out of New England. I wouldn't. Nor would I probably take Bieniemy. Just to be honest, I wouldn't. There are other guys that I would take, but realistically, it's not like there's just a Super Bowl head coach waiting for us. It's always a risk, and that calculated risk means, Gerald, you're right. You might go. You might go 11-6. Might happen. But just wait and see, right? I get what you're saying. My only hope would be that if you rehaul the offensive coaching staff and you get the type of leadership and play calling that you need, you make up for any deficiencies in what you would have with just Dennis Allen and this current coaching staff. But you're right. I mean, you're definitely threatening for long-term mediocrity. Absolutely. I get what you're saying. So, but, the issue with like the Belichick mention that I saw mentioned is Bill Belichick is coach and GM, and I just cannot see a situation where he goes GM only or coach only, rather. I just don't. I don't see him doing that. I don't see him giving up that type of control. Even if he is fired from the Patriots, he's going to want that level of control where either he turns the GM into nothing more than a cash signer or he is the GM of whatever franchise he takes over. And I don't think that's going to happen in New Orleans, so I don't see him being a realistic option, and I wouldn't want that anyway. Why wouldn't you take EB? I guess my answer to that, Broadway, is what about EB makes us believe that he's a winning head coach material guy? There are guys that I understand taking a shot at and letting them see what they are. D'Amico Ryans and Bobby Slowick as a combo are a great example in Houston. Dan Campbell and Johnson in Detroit. I get it. EB has been an offensive coordinator for multiple teams and has had multiple head coaching interviews, and he continually doesn't get chosen. And you just reach a point where I think it's EB. I think it's Bieniemy. I just don't think that he's the guy. I think multiple franchises have been like, yeah, we interviewed him, and we don't think that he can take this guy or take our team and make them, next level. And yet D'Amico Ryans comes in and immediately changes the entire culture of the Houston Texans. I don't know. I'm not opposed. Like, I don't think he's a bad OC or anything. You saw D'Amico Ryans 2 years as a defensive coordinator under Shanahan. Now, he was a linebackers coach, obviously. And then for those that don't remember, he's a fantastic linebacker in his prime. This is his third year as a play calling level coach, as a coordinator / HC. This is his third year. By the way, with a team that doing quite well, 9-7. I'm not going to say anything negative about that. So first year as a head coach, he goes 9-7 with a rookie quarterback and a rookie OC. Damn. And that just makes me look at situations like Eric Bieniemy and I go, why does nobody give him that shot? And I think it goes back to what we talked about in a recent episode. Some guys have that, like, you can tell that moxie where they're a leader of men. And regardless of how good they are at play calling, you just know that they're a head coach type of a guy. It's Dan Campbell's the best representation of that, in my opinion. He's one of, if not the best. You could also argue Harbaugh because one of the Harbaugh brothers started off as a special teams coach, where it's not necessarily as much about their play calling ability as much as it is their ability to create and lead a locker room. And I think you see that immediately in the presence that a guy like DeMeco Ryans has, and Dan Campbell, absolutely. But Eric Bieniemy maybe isn't giving guys that, which is why he hasn't had a shot. Right? Now, I think DeMeco Ryans did a pretty good job as a defensive coordinator, so I don't want to diminish who he is there. I think he truly did do a really good job as a DC, and I think he's really helped Houston defensively, but I think people want to follow DeMeco Ryans. You believe what he's saying, and you trust in it. And I don't think that every head coach has that same level of moxie in their voice. I think Dennis Allen does not. We've talked about for 2 years now. We don't think that Dennis Allen has that extra. So, that's kind of where I am. Again, I'm kind of long-winded in today's answering questions, but that's kind of where I am with Eric Bieniemy, where, look, I love the guy. I want success for him. And hell, if you can pry him away from Washington, he's a much better play caller, in my personal opinion, than Pete Carmichael. I don't think he's the best play caller in the league, but I do think he's better. And also, last thing, he's from NOLA. So yeah, I want success, but it's very telling to me when multiple guys just who are younger and less experienced keep getting the jobs that he interviews for or wants, and he doesn't get them. I think it just says a lot. And this is his 6th year as an offensive coordinator. 6. But he's been coaching in the NFL since 2006. So he's been coaching in the NFL for 15 years. 15. And then he actually went to Colorado, shout out Deion Sanders, and coached at the OC for 2 years before coming back to the league. So yeah, just maybe it's EB. Maybe it's him. So anyway, that's why I lean towards, I'm here where, if we are going to change things, let's change everything. Go for broke, just like you did with Sean Payton. Take a risk. Kubiak, who I've mentioned out of the Shanahan tree and technically his dad's tree, that's a risk, right? That's a risk. It's a calculated risk, but it's a risk. So, and you're right, Randall. The Panthers owner is throwing drinks on people getting fined $300,000, which, fun fact, that $300,000 fine that Tepper is having to pay for the Carolina Panthers is 0.0001% of his total net worth. So I hope it hits you where it really hurts there, Tep. Hope it hits you where it hurts. So, yeah, it's a weird week. It's definitely completely always the Falcons. And the New Orleans Saints, I believe, are a better team. For those of you who care about spreads, they opened up as a 3.5-point favorite against Atlanta, and it is a home game. Just to keep it fair there, Carolina Panthers opened as a 5.5 underdog at home against Tampa. But there is your Vegas line for those of you. I know there are many of you who care about the Vegas line. It's not really me because I don't really do betting, but I know many of you love your parlays and your other little piratey jargon. Cool. More power to y'all, and I hope you'll have a lot of success. But you got Seattle, who's a 2.5-point favorite. And then don't forget that you still need Green Bay to lose. And they're playing Chicago, and Green Bay's a 3-point favorite, and that's in Green Bay. Now, you better hope Justin Fields manages to be the next Cam Newton and Superman in this game, as well as Arizona continue with that Kyler Murray. Oh my gosh, I can't even say the name, guys. It's because he's 2 foot tall. He doesn't even have enough room for a last name on his jersey. So Kyler, if he can have that same level of explosive ability and play that you saw last week, maybe, just maybe, New Orleans sneaks in and you beat Atlanta. And Zion's bullying, guys. Look, yeah, he's bullying the Nets right now, and they're a bad team. But I'll tell you, we're getting distracted. Lots of rabbit holes in the 723rd episode of Who Dat Confessional. Did you watch the LA Lakers game? Jose Alvarado. Man, I wish Zion played with that level of spirit. That level of I'm going to dominate this against the best. I'm going to go one-on-one with LeBron and take the ball out of his mouth. Love that. Jose Alvarado won that game. And he's a bench player. But yeah, Zion, if y'all don't know, I've said it I'm done on Zion. Like, I don't want him to be bad, but I'm done believing that he's the MVP of New Orleans' future that takes us to the finals. So, at least weather's a non-factor in Lambeau. That's the hope, Demetrius. Yeah, that's definitely the hope. And it's always go Pels, by the way. I will never root for negatives, but it's the same thing with, like, the Saints. I don't want the Saints to lose to Atlanta. Still don't like Dennis Allen as the head coach. But I'll tell you this. You ain't fired. Name me a coach that got fired at 9-8. It's very hard. Well, that's obviously a very recent record. But not many coaches getting fired with winning records. It's pretty rare. Pretty rare. So what is Loomis going to try to sell the fans in the offseason? Oh, I can already tell you that answer right now, Randall. That's easy. Here's what he's going to sell you. Winning record ball club if they beat the Falcons. Because they're 8-8 now. Winning record ball club. They got better down the stretch. Derek Carr's success and efficiency, because yes, I'm telling you what he's going to give you. And then they're going to talk about picking what's likely going to be a top 15 draft pick. If they go 9-8, they might be in the upper teens. But that's what he's going to try to sell you. I'm not telling you to buy, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you that's what he's going to sell you. And then you're going to have and I don't personally have an issue with the New Orleans Saints strategy of the kicking down the can. That's fine with me. But they're going to do it again because they're going to sell you that they can retool and go from 9 wins to 11 or 12 wins and make a serious Super Bowl push. That's what they're going to sell you. Now, whether you should buy it or not, I'll tell you this. If you got an extra, just ridiculous money laying around that you don't care if you lose it, feel free to bet on the Saints if you want to. But I'm not buying. I don't have enough money for that. So it is what it is. And when we talk about problems, it's all season for me. It's been a lot. And I'll admit this. I've been focused on DA and by extension, Pete Carmichael. And I still think that they're an issue, but it's getting to a point where I'm also agreeing with a lot of people that Mickey Loomis is an issue because Mickey Loomis isn't doing the things that we've seen yet to address the issues. Now, he could completely flip the script in the offseason and actually do something. And then I will take it back. But Saints fans since 2008 says trade Cam Jordan. Nobody's buying Cam Jordan's contract. Who would buy that? Who? What would you even get, trade Saints or Saints fan? Nothing. You wouldn't get anything. Nobody's coming for Cameron Jordan. He don't even want to leave New Orleans. And I'll be honest, I don't want him to leave. Now, that isn't saying that I want him to play 6 more years, but I want him to retire a Saint. But would I rather have Cameron Jordan or a 7th round pick? Cameron Jordan all day, every day, and 3 times on Sunday. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No. Coming to the light with Loomis? It depends, Randall. If Mickey Loomis just tries to sell me complete BS on how good this coaching staff actually is in the offseason, then I will have come around. If he was simply playing nice during the season because he didn't want it to be a controversy thing, which I can get and respect for a team that is technically fighting for the division through 18 weeks. If it was all because he doesn't want drama in the locker room, he doesn't want drama in the media, then I will actually let that slide. I will. I will legitimately let it slide. If he was doing it all for the keeping everything together during the season, and then at the end, he's like, yo, this was terrible. I'm going to be like, you know what? I'm okay. I hate it. I get it. But there you go. So we'll see. A world where Cameron Jordan comes off the field for Zach Bond to rush the quarterback. Man, what a multiverse that is. What a multiverse that is. Paul says DA couldn't win with an easy schedule. Next year is tougher, not seeing a winning season. I wouldn't necessarily say next year is tougher. We can't tell you what next year is. But the opponents are going to be, here's who they play as of right now. Commanders, that's not tougher. Falcons, Panthers, that's not tougher. Cowboys, that's a tougher game. Chiefs, I'm very curious to see if the Chiefs can fix this really hardcore slide they've been hitting in the negative. Chargers, that's not exactly better. I'm very curious what their situation looks like next year. Then you got the Falcons, Panthers, obviously, Bucks, Eagles, yeah, maybe. Then you play Sean Payton, but he has to come back to NOLA with the Broncos. Then you got the Raiders and an NFC North, which would, if we ended up in first, that means that we would be playing the Lions. If we end up in second, that means it will probably end up playing either the Packers or the Vikings. That's not terrible either. Again, this is all like, there's so much that changes in a year. I'm not going to worry about next year's schedule. I'm going to worry about right now. So you're hopeless optimistic. I think we can play with anybody when Lattimore and MT come back. Well, that's the thing, Kevin. I don't think they're coming back this year. And if you make the playoffs, that would be, you're probably hosting the Rams. So we could bring out the playoff calculator. So ESPN playoff machine. Let's pick real quick. I'm going to do this right there with you. So let's just say we've already got all those done. So we know what happened last week. Busting a week 18. And let's just say the Saints win and somehow Tampa loses. So the Saints win the seed. And then let's just go ahead and go around real quick. We're just going to say the Cowboys get an easy win versus Washington. We're going to say that Philly decides that losing sucks and they're going to pull in a W. Oh, God, this is not looking pretty. I do not like this, Sam. I do not like this. No, sir, I do not. Apparently, we'd get Philly. Okay, let me finish this out. Let's see. Detroit's going to play hard and try to keep their record up, but I don't think it honestly matters. So I think they're locked in that third seed no matter. Yeah, because they won the division. So it doesn't matter. But let's just say they lose just to see where the Vikings could end up. I'm going to give Sean Payton a win just for the heck of it. We're going to say Green Bay is going to win at home. And Seattle wins. I'm just picking basically the better teams by record. And whoever wins. And we're going to just say San Francisco loses because I'm curious, will that change it? That doesn't change it at all, actually. Even if they lose to LA, looks like they got that first seed kind of locked in. So if New Orleans manages to win the division, they're going to host the Philadelphia Eagles. If they do not win the division, let's say, for example, the Commanders lose, or I'm sorry, the Commanders beat Dallas and Philly, then we'd have Dallas as the 5th seed, and then we're going to whoever the NFC East is because that's going to be the 2nd seed. That's going to be the 2nd seed regardless. So we either play the NFC East winner or the NFC East's wild card comes to us. Those are your playoff matchup that you could see. And neither of them look favorable for me. Neither of them look good. I know the Eagles are really struggling right now, Nikki, but if you remember, the Saints lost their final 3 games of the year when they won the Super Bowl in 2009. Sometimes you get it all back together when the playoffs come. I'd rather face none of them. I am also one of those people that, like, I've seen people talk about they want the easy schedule to get the Super Bowl, or they want they want to play the top opponents. I don't. Give me the easiest path to any Super Bowl championship. Like, I want to play the 7th seed, and then somehow the 5th seed won. So I want to play the 5th seed at home, and then after that, somehow the 4th seed made it to the NFC Championship game. Then I want to play the 4th seed, and then over on the AFC side, I want the worst team, whoever made it, whatever seed it was, I want to play them. I want the easiest way to a trophy. And Philly and Dallas are not easy ways to a trophy. I guess it's slightly easier if it's at home, arguably. But I would much rather easy schedule my way to a Super Bowl than hard schedule knockout drawouts. That's me. I'm weird. I don't want 2009 again. I want it because I want the Super Bowl. But playing Hall of Famer Kurt Warner and the Cardinals in week 1 was stressful. Okay? That was stressful. That was week 2. Playing Brett Favre Hall of Famer and an Adrian Peterson Hall of Famer Vikings team in the NFC Championship game, that was stressful. Okay? Playing the Indianapolis Colts and Peyton Manning Hall of Famer in the Super Bowl, that was stressful. Okay? I want the easiest path possible. That was such a great year. Oh, it's a great year because it happened. 2009 was a great year because it happened. If 2009 ended like 2018, you wouldn't be saying that. Because 2018 is, for me, probably the best Saints team I've ever seen. Like, player to player, position to position, everything. 2018 is probably the best New Orleans Saints team I have ever personally seen. They lost a heartbreaker to the Rams because of the stupid no call. That's the best team I've ever seen. That's just me, though. 2011 is a great year, but the defense wasn't near as good as 2018's defense. But either way, those are great years. But what year do we always go back to? 2009, because we actually won it, right? 2018 was a great one. Broadway, appreciate you supporting the channel. Welcome, Practice Squad. But yeah, anyway, many rabbit holes here as we're just talking about, beat the Falcons. Also, in all those years, we beat the snot out the Falcons. Oh my gosh. I remember 2018, we beat the Falcons twice. The first one in 2018, we had to do it in overtime. It was that 43-37 game. That was the Drew Brees spin move game, if I remember right. And then we beat them 31-17, week 11 or 13, somewhere in there. So we beat them twice that year. 2019, obviously beat the brakes off the Falcons. You know what? It's a sign of a good year when you beat the brakes off the Falcons. This is why it should be on the bulletin board before every season, beat the Falcons twice. Every time you beat the Falcons twice, good things happen. Yeah, 2018 is the most dominant I've ever seen the Saints just as a unit. They were just complete in all phases, and then a stupid no call ends up costing them. But yeah, that's my personal favorite Saints team. 2011, 2009 are both also equally just fantastic. And obviously, I prefer the hardware of 2009. 2015 was a good year. All right, look here. You calm down. Now, 2013 is an underrated year. I will say that. 2013 is a very underrated year. Shout out Jimmy Graham. But yeah, obviously that one didn't go far either. We did win in Philly, which was great in 2013, but didn't make it very far after that because we had Seattle, who, again, we just really struggled against Seattle in the playoffs, and we lost that one by a touchdown. And even then, if I remember right, going back to that 2015 year or 2013 year, we scored a touchdown pass with a minute left. So the score is really misleading. Truthfully, we were we lost 23-8. I think we had a last minute touchdown. So, yeah. If Michigan beat Alabama, anything is possible. Everything is possible, but not all things are likely. You should watch my brother, Brian Branch. Should I? We still own the Bucs. I'm glad that we've owned the Bucs once this year, but we should have owned them twice. We should own the Bucs more than we owned them. We should own the Bucs more than we own them. I'm still upset about last year. Let me just put it that way. I'm still upset about last year. That was inexcusable. 1 freaking yard. Yeah, losing to Tampa earlier this year, we lost 26-9. Yeah, you split with the Bucs, which is good. I'm glad you managed to win one against the Bucs, but yeah, come to find out, you win the division. Do well. Who knew? We own the Bucs record-wise. That is a true statement. But I mean, how much does that honestly matter? Speaking of that, since we want to go down that rabbit hole, New Orleans Saints are technically tied, but technically not with the Atlanta Falcons all time. In regular season play, it's 54-54. If you can include the postseason, it's 55-54. This year, they had an opportunity, if they swept the Falcons, to take that lead. They can tie it back at 55-55. They can tie it at 55-55 with a win. But you got to beat the Falcons. You are right, though, on the Tampa one. Bucs have more Super Bowls. Hey, look, they got 2 Super Bowls. And I'm not taking that away from Tampa. But having 2 Super Bowls does not diminish the Saints' one. And I'd also argue that the 15 years of success they did have, I wouldn't take away. Would I preferably buy a Super Bowl like Tampa did with the Tom Brady thing? Absolutely. If I can get a Super Bowl, I'll take it however I can get it. But I'm still very appreciative of 15 years that were, 9 playoff appearances, 3 NFC Championship games, and a Super Bowl. I'm still grateful for that. Still grateful. So, my 8-year-old son, hold on, let me grab this comment. 8-year-old son just getting in football. He'll be watching highlights. As always, that Minneapolis Miracle playing in the background. That is in a lot of highlights, so that's true. Saints should draft Michael Penix. The dude was throwing the ball on a rope last night. Paul, we will go into hopefully next week. See, I hate that I say that because that means the Saints didn't make the playoffs. I want to be very clear. I want the New Orleans Saints to beat. I want the New Orleans Saints to beat. Be very clear. I want the New Orleans Saints to beat Atlanta Falcons. That said, do I like Penix? From the little bit I've watched, I do not have a scouting report on him. Yes. But there are a lot of flaws in his game. If you want to give an NFL comp, it's very much Jameis Winston. Same level of aggression, same problem with typically throwing one speed, not sensing pressure super well. I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying that don't take one game, take all of it. And that's just me giving like a little bit of what I've seen that isn't a scouting report. Would I take him in the first round? I do think the Saints need a quarterback of a future. But I definitely wouldn't call him Derek Carr, Mr. Barnes, because he's far more aggressive. He's far more aggressive than Derek Carr is. Derek Carr has to be told to throw the ball. I don't think Penix does. But there are other quarterbacks I would probably go for first. But I would say this. Penix is a better fit for New Orleans than Jaden Daniels is. So there's that. He'll also be 24, I think, when the season starts next year. A little old for a rookie. He's also had 2 ACL tears, if I remember right. And an AC. He's had a shoulder problem and 2 ACL tears. So it's not exactly the healthy history you're looking for. But it's not, I mean, I wouldn't complain. Just letting you know that there are probably other options that I might look at. But I would have no gripe about it. Evans ain't big on Penix. He has mechanics that don't look that great, maybe because he's left-handed. Now, believe it or not, that actually can throw off how you see, like, especially a quarterback's throwing motion. But to your your eye there, his mechanics aren't great. And you can see it because he basically only throws line drive type of balls. He is a lot of upper body mechanic, which is also why he's not the most accurate quarterback in like the middle of the field in the intermediate throws. He's not the most accurate quarterback because a lot of it's upper body. And what you see with quarterbacks who are mostly upper body mechanic throwers, who rely a lot on their arm and the wrist action, is they tend to overshoot guys high. You know, when you have a stable core and you're working from the ground up and you get that actual rotation where the hip actually comes through first before your shoulder and all those mechanics are right, like Drew Brees perfected and we saw for years, you're going to have passes that no matter what depth you're throwing at are going to be same spot every time. But if you're throwing with all upper body, then that means that the lower body is not in coordination and it can really influence where you're going in any direction. So if you don't have all your mechanics working at all 3 levels, you know, lower, mid, and upper mechanics, then you kind of end up having the problem that a lot of quarterbacks you see have where the ball starts sailing. This was a big issue for Lamar Jackson coming into the league, where Lamar's issue was attacking outside the numbers. And it even to an extent is still an issue now, but his mechanics have improved over the years. He's a much more effective quarterback. But I remember scouting him. That was a big issue with Lamar, was a lot of wrist mechanic, a lot of those type of throws, which caused him to sail and miss, especially in sideline throws, which is what we've talked about, tend to be longer throws. Because when you are going straight ahead, that's a shorter A to B route than going across the field to right, left side, etc. So all those things can be fixed, but they need to be fixed. That's also why I've always said, like, I will always enjoy college more than NFL more than college, because college is not a good game. No offense, college football players. There are great college football players. But even the best college football players typically are not great NFL players, especially immediately. And there are examples or exceptions. The blue chips we always talk about. Those exceptions exist. But I will always enjoy NFL more because it is just a better product and it is better football. They're just better at it. College is literally taking a step back, even with some of the best prospects. So, yeah. Maybe they need to start doing the Drew Brees throwing obstacle courses. They did a couple of those this year, but I don't know if Derek Carr really took to it as much as others have. I know Jameis really enjoys it. But I don't really know how much Carr's taken to it. I know they did it a couple times this year. But by the way, for those who are keeping up with our Pellies, the score is 59-34 at halftime. Brandon Ingram has 12 points, 15 minutes. Zion's got 6 and 13. And your leading scorer for the Pellies is CJ McCollum, 13 on 17 minutes. Jonas Valanciunas has got 7 rebounds already. Pretty nice. And Zion has been struggling with rebounding this year. I just think he's not in great shape. He's only got 2. But 59-34, that's pretty daggum impressive numbers. That's impressive numbers. But always go Pels. Always go Pels. Why don't you take Drake Meyer or Caleb Williams? Yes or no, we won't get either. Or who'd you rather take, Drake Meyer or Caleb Williams? So again, Broadway Joe, I'm going to do most of draft stuff when we actually are eliminated from contention. That way I can actually build scouting reports. Because for me, maybe I take things too seriously. But for me, it's just, if I don't have a scouting report, then I don't feel very confident in what I'm saying. And if I haven't put in the time and the work, I feel like I shouldn't be just giving an opinion. Just because I have a platform doesn't mean I should just like give an opinion on a player. And I've not watched enough of all of these to give what I would say is a full in-depth scouting report. Now I do plan on it, right? I'm definitely not going to like avoid it or anything. I'm going to do one on them, but who do I like more? Probably Williams. I think the biggest thing that was a problem for me with May when I watched him is, again, and I've really only watched a couple of like college broadcast games, no all 22. But watching him, even though he was accurate, which I really liked, and obviously he's got a pretty good arm. A lot of people love that. A lot of people love the arm strength because he throws with velocity. I know he's athletic. But a big thing that stuck out to me in one game I remember watching is that he just doesn't really get off that first read very often. And if he thinks he bird dogs, and that's a tendency that's hard to break. So probably Williams because of that alone. Doesn't mean I wouldn't take either one of them, but I think there's probably not a single quarterback in this year's draft that I would label as like day one ready, especially for New Orleans. Some other place, maybe, but for New Orleans, no. But good news is they don't have to start year one because Derek Carr is going to start. So, yeah. Drew Brees Sports Science episode from years ago was insane. I love that episode. Yeah, that was a great episode. Drew Brees been throwing a bullseye since he's been with the Chargers. Why I'm so accurate in my personal opinion. I don't think that has anything to do with it, honestly, take a ton. I think it's because he worked on perfecting mechanics, and Tom House was a big deal with that. But, yeah, I mean, him hitting the center of a bullseye is always impressive. Sadly, Drew can't throw anymore. He said said as much this year, which really sucks. Like, I feel for him. But he said he unless it's like sidearm or underarm, he can't really use that right arm and go over the top. The shoulder is just completely wrecked. It's done. It's barbecue chicken. And I hate that for him. But, you know, he's had a fantastic career and a good life and oodles and goobles of money. So much money so that he is still putting canned red beans in his red beans and rice. But it is what it is. But his arm is shot. Dan Orlovsky said Caleb is a mixture of Josh Allen, Mahomes, and Lamar. That's to be a stretch. Say, man, that's... Dan Orlovsky has some great takes and some wild takes. And I've run into that a lot with former players. And this one I've also said that, like, I'm not super confident in Drew Brees just coming in and being a great offensive coordinator. Just because you were a NFL player does not mean that you are good at evaluating talent. It doesn't mean that you are good for play calling, situational football awareness, any of that. You could even be a Hall of Fame level player and be a terrible coach or a terrible scout. And then you could be a guy who was barely even on an NFL roster and be fantastic. Or you could literally be a mom's basement nerd and be one of the better scouts in the NFL. That's the thing, by the way. Most of the scouts and stuff and most of your coaches, they didn't play professional ball. So, yeah, I mean, Dan has had some really good takes, but also some takes that were like, and this is the problem with big media. We talk about big media all the time over here. They don't have the time to sit there and study the subject at hand. Like, and when I'm saying study, I mean, like, did he actually sit down, do a good 6 hours worth of film study minimum to see 200 snaps of Caleb Williams, build a scouting report, and then come out with his opinion that the dude is a mix of an MVP, and then not an MVP, but still a very good quarterback. It's a hell of a take. I feel like we're just reaching for names that people know. So I'm actually more impressed when people do comps, but they do comps for like regular folks. Like, hey, this guy shows a lot of Baker Mayfield. Here's why that's a good thing. I'm like, okay, all right, I can work with that. When you just come out the gate like, hey, he's a mixture of Mahomes and Lamar and Allen, I'm like, so he's John Elway? I mean, what is he? No, I don't like. Anyway, again, the theme of this stream has been tangents. I don't like that. To me, it feels like lazy analysis. And I say that as someone who's literally talked to Dan Orlovsky before, and I'm not trying to besmirch him. I'm just saying like that as a phrase is like, okay, sure, whatever. I don't like that. That's not me. But again, this is that national media problem. Like, do you actually have time to sit there and if you've got a 1 hour show that day, did you actually have the opportunity to do, 12 hours of film study to do Caleb Williams versus Jaden Daniels? You did not. They did not let you do that. So, Tony Romo be calling out plays before they happen in real time? Yeah, I mean, Tony Romo is an extremely knowledgeable guy who I do think could be a coach because he is a very, very astute guy when it comes to situational football understanding. And that can translate to performance on the field as a coach. I wonder if he'll ever do that. I don't know. But Tony Romo is just very good at it. And that's why Tony Romo was or is one of the better names in broadcasting at the moment in terms of like former players getting that role. And Drew Brees was 1 and out. Now, I'm not saying that to say that Drew Brees can't be an OC. I'm just saying that there are just some guys who are natural fits for certain things. And some things just translate and some things don't. So, Tony Romo next OC. I'm not against it. I mean, he's never done it before. So I would love him to start off as like a quarterback's coach and a passing game coordinator. He's also, how old is Tony Romo now? He's 43. That's not even that old. Yeah, I'm cool with it. I would still rather him to start off something and like actually show a little bit of like before just taking a shot. Yeah, that's just me. Yeah. We are going, you thought Gibbs was going to be the next Kamara? I mean, Gibbs is doing pretty damn good, so you might not be far off from that. He's doing pretty damn good. Shout out to the Lions. He's got 915 yards rushing, 5 yards per attempt. I think a lot of that's on the O-line. But he's got 1,231 yards and 10 touchdowns as a rookie. It's hard to really say anything negative about that. We talked about the boom and zoom that New Orleans had, and it was fantastic. But they've got 2 running backs who technically, depending on how this game goes, they could both have 1,000 yards rushing. So as impressive as Ingram and Kamara were for the 2017 New Orleans Saints, that might be more impressive. Crazy. Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram were extremely impressive. By the way, just for clarity, Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara combined for over 3,000 yards from scrimmage and 25 touchdowns. Montgomery and Gibbs have combined so far for 2,300 yards and 22 touchdowns. So 700 less yards in the same amount of games. So to be clear, I don't think they're better because what Ingram and Kamara did truly is unique and rare and has never happened before. Montgomery and Gibbs are pretty damn close. Pretty damn close. How much longer can Demario Davis play at this level? 2 years, maybe? Maybe. Jameis should get his jersey retired by the Saints. He should get his jersey retired by Red Lobster. I love Jameis. I hope he stays in New Orleans. I really do. Nobody's retiring that man's jersey. Except Florida State. Florida State will retire his jersey. They actually already did. But got to get our Red Lobster jokes in. Mario Davis about to be the Brady of linebackers. I mean, I'm here for it. You can already tell if you watch him this year, it's a little bit slowed down, though. Not the cheddar biscuits. Look, let's just be real. Cheddar biscuits are the only thing that's actually good at Red Lobster. If you're taking dates to Red Lobster, you don't really like that date. You're just trying to impress that date. I'm just saying. You don't actually really like them. You're just trying to impress them. Ain't nothing good at Red Lobster except the Cheddar Bay biscuits. All the food is bland, soggy mess. Ain't good. Especially because we all talking to people mostly from Louisiana, at least the Gulf region. Y'all should at least know some basics about seafood. If you taking dates to Red Lobster, you really don't want them. You're just honestly trying to smash. I'm just being real. So you're giving it away. Like, take them somewhere respectable. Respect yourself. Imagine if I caught you at a Red Lobster. Like, if I'm driving around and I notice your car and I see you around, I'm going to come in with my phone and I'm going to be like, World Star, he's at Red Lobster. I'm going to get you. Don't do that. Don't do that. Like, hell, have more respect and just admit what you're doing. Just go down to Applebee's and start hitting on all the single moms with 3 kids. Just admit what you're doing. If that's what you're going to be, just be it. Just be it, brother. Okay? Don't fake it at Red Lobster. It's dim. They keep the lights low so you can't see how much they don't clean the place. The food's terrible. At least admit what you want. All right? Go over to Applebee's with the single moms with 3 kids and have your fun over there. Okay? Just stay away from Red Lobster. You can buy the Cheddar Bay biscuits at Walmart. Stop it. Just stop it. Anyway, I'm not mad at the soccer moms at all. I'm just saying admit where you are. If that's where you are in life, that's fine. If where you're at in life is right now, you want to go after the single moms, go to Applebee's and Chili's. Get out of Red Lobster. I'm embarrassed for you. You're from Louisiana. You should not be in a Red Lobster. Stop it. Stop it. Now, if you're listening here and you're from like Connecticut, you go do whatever you do, fam. That's fine. I'm sure in Connecticut, Red Lobster's probably pretty decent. Like, y'all are actually near a coast. Maybe there's some like local fisheries or whatever, how that works. Maybe over there. But down here, you should be embarrassed. You should be embarrassed. Shameful, actually. Shameful. Cheesecake Factory. We're not going to come for Cheesecake Factory's head here because that's not our thing. But I'll say this. If you get a cheese steak at a Cheesecake Factory in Philly, you deserve to be kicked out the city. So, I love y'all. Y'all are amazing. Does Michigan win the national championship? No. Red Lobster went out of business within a year in Belgium, couldn't compete in endless health and safety violations. Wow. We got international Red Lobster hate. I'm actually pretty impressed and I love it. That is the energy I wish we had more of on this channel. Appreciate y'all. We're going to roll it up. We will be back Thursday to preview the Atlanta Falcons losing to the New Orleans Saints. Love y'all. Appreciate y'all. Who dat? God bless. We'll catch you on the next episode. Deuces. That's me. We out. Let's go.